Stream. Stream, 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 stream. Stream, 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 stream. Stream, 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 stream. Stream. Kind of gave it my own flavor there. Sort of did my own thing with it. Hey, it's Monday, right? Does anyone have a case of the Mondays? Stream. What's up, Karen? You're first. Again, you rock. What's up, Speaking Truth to Stupid? I like that screen name. What's up, Susan? What's up, Frederick? What's up, Sam? What's up, Nolan? Good to see everybody. Happy Monday. I hope everyone had a great weekend. I had a fantastic weekend, actually. I had a really cool weekend. Lucy, did you have a nice weekend? What's up, Shannon? What's up, Rochelle? What's up, Free Energy? Once we hit 30, we're gonna get started here, and we're gonna dance. You know what I mean. This is what's up, Statutory? What's up, Inks Pixels? Which, by the way, LucyandRon.com is coming soon. But you can follow on Twitter, Lucy and Ron on Twitter, Lucy and Ron Comic on Instagram. I don't know if you guys saw, but a Lucy and Ron comic is out now. You can follow Lucy and Ron on Twitter, Lucy and Ron Comic on Instagram. LucyandRon.com is coming. Right, Lucy? How exciting is that? She's stoked. She knows it. She's feeling it. Susan says, I love the comic. Karen says, it's awesome. Thank you guys so much. What's up, PJ? Good to see you. Hello from Ireland. Send my love to Ireland. Have a hurling match for me. Notary says, the comic is fantastic. Makes me smile. Keen says, I saw you featured on a Comics to Watch video. I don't know, what are you referring to? I'm not sure what that's referring to, Keen. Email it to me if you don't mind. There's a Comics to Watch video and I'm on it. That's neat. But let me know about that. I'm not sure what that refers to, but I'm glad to hear it. Guys, we are over 30. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. It is Monday. Happy Monday. Hope everyone's having a great week already. You know, why not? I try to greet the week. You know, I try not to ever have a, quote, case of the Mondays. I know that's easy for me to say because I don't have a conventional day job. But, you know, I really try to greet it as a beginning, something I'm going to slay, you know, something like that. It's Music Monday, and I got a suggestion from Edwin that we're going to take. But first, I got another suggestion from Shauna that I got to give a shout-out to. Shauna turned me on to this group. Shauna, I'm not sure if you're in the chat, but if you are, thank you. Cop Shoot Cop. Here they are, Cop Shoot Cop. They're a band out of New York City, started in 1987. They're described as industrial rock. Now, I kind of got this vibe. They were kind of like a bit of an acid rock type thing, and they reminded me of Morphine a little bit, which I wasn't sure why. I'm like, why do they remind me of Morphine some? Like, there's something about their sound. I found out, looking at their Wikipedia, they don't actually use a guitar, kind of like Morphine. It's two bassists and a drummer, and then sometimes the other guy uses keyboards as well. I never heard of these guys. I totally missed them. Shauna recommended them to me, and I've been listening to them all morning. It's really cool post-punk, acid-esque rock. It's just good stuff. You know, I don't like describing music that much anymore because I feel like there's good stuff and bad stuff, you know? What's up? Hey, look who's really excited about her comic. Somebody is so stoked about her comic, she wants to hang. Good morning, Lucy. How are you? I hope everything is well. Hope you had a great night and a great nap. She was up early this morning because I was up early this morning. So she got all excited. She was like, "Is it time to get up?" And I was like, "No, it's not. I just have to use the restroom." She was like, "Well, you're awake though. You never do that." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And that's that. That was it. So she's been up. And she too has been enjoying the smooth sounds of Cop Shoe Cop. I got the name wrong. But yeah, I totally missed the boat on these guys. I never knew about them. Never heard of them. Shauna turned me on to them. Thank you for doing that, Shauna, because I've been listening to them all morning, and they've got a new fan in me. They're not around anymore, I don't think, but I recommend them. Check them out. So here's the other recommendation for today's Music Monday that we're going to take. Edwin suggests this. This is from Edwin. Here's what he said to me on Twitter. Last Friday marked Kurt Cobain's death 25 years ago. I'd like to dedicate today's Music Monday to him in remembrance. You don't need to convince me much. So I was thinking about it, and I would say that if I had to give like one gold star or one just sort of, this is the person who creatively inspired me more than anyone else, inspired me to become a creative person or whatever, I would have to give that number one spot to Kurt Cobain. Even more so than any comedian, more so than a George Carlin, more so than Bill Hicks even, more so than anyone in the literary world. I would have to give it to Kurt Cobain, and it's because, and I've mentioned this on the show before, Nirvana for me was a big launching pad into discovering a lot of different music. I discovered Nirvana when I was 10 years old, and I just missed it because Kurt Cobain had just died. And I got Unplugged in New York on cassette, and I never heard rock music done that way before. I was just into classic rock at that point, and I was cognizant of the stuff on the radio, and I heard Nirvana Unplugged, and it just blew my mind. So I got Nevermind on cassette, and I listened to the Nevermind cassette so much. Some of you might be having to Google what cassette tapes are, but I listened to my Nevermind cassette tape so much that I broke it twice. I had to rebuy that cassette twice. And what I would do is I would sit on a swing set in my parents' yard, and I would swing back and forth, and I had a Walkman. That was what they were called. They were a Walkman. It was a portable cassette player. You would pop the cassette in, you would hit play, and I would just swing back and forth and listen to that album. And it was such an incredible album. And I dreamed of one day having my own little garage band and playing that kind of music. And you would always know when the batteries were wearing out because the music would start to warp because it was a cassette tape, so it went around. So the music would start to sound warped, like it would start to sound like that slow motion. And that's how you knew that the batteries were dying and you needed new batteries for your Walkman. And I would go through batteries a lot, and yeah, I literally wore out the cassette. It wouldn't play anymore. I straight up broke it from playing it so much, and that happened twice. And then a little while later, I got Nevermind on CD, because I still bought cassettes for a while, because even after CDs were out, they didn't have portable CD players for a little bit. It took a little bit for them to get portable CD players. And when they first got them, I don't know if any of you guys remember this, when they first got portable CD players, they sucked. Portable CD players were bullshit. They just skipped every second. They were not good. It took like a little bit of time for them to perfect portable CD players. Or maybe perfect's a bit strong, but make them better. The first round of them, at least the ones that I was introduced to, were very poor. I remember the first CD player I got, it sucked. It just skipped all the time. I ended up returning it and just being like, I'm going to stick with cassettes. Whatever. So cassettes were still selling for that reason. People would like them as Walkmans and stuff like that. And then cassettes actually still sell because some people collect them. But I digress. So what Nirvana used to do, and there's a segment going on where one of Nirvana's former managers just released a book about Nirvana and has been doing a lot of appearances. And he talked about how they would always wear different band t-shirts. And when I was 10 years old, I would look at all these photos of Nirvana. I would look at the t-shirt that Kurt or someone else in the band was wearing. I would find that band at the record store. So I would look at it, I'd be like, who's Flipper? Who's Black Flag? Who's Dinosaur Jr.? Who's, all these bands? Who's Fugazi? I would just look, and that was how I discovered punk rock, essentially, because I got really into Discord Records, which, by the way, look, one of the first Discord bands is on my shirt right now, State of Alert. So I would do that. I would go, and that was how I discovered a lot of music. So Kurt Cobain was really instrumental as an artist in catapulting me into what would inform my musical palette. And politically, he was a huge lefty. He was, very progressive. He identified as a socialist. He was way ahead of his time in so many ways. He was very outspoken about bigotry. He was very outspoken against homophobia. And he was just very much a brilliant guy. And, of course, had a lot of issues, obviously. But when I think about just culturally and the type of values I hold dear, if I had to say, well, who's one creator just across the gamut that probably meant more to you than anybody else, it would have to be Kurt Cobain. And it still blows my mind that he was only 27 years old when he died. I mean, it's just, he had so much more to give. And I know that's a common story because there's the 27 curse. But when you think about some of the brilliant minds that we lost, and the fact that they were only 27, and I guess now that I'm older than 27, it really sinks into me a lot, but Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, Hendrix. It's pretty crazy to think about, and it's really crazy to think about. Well, what would Kurt Cobain think if he was around today? And I try not to spend too much time dwelling on that sort of thing because we have no idea. Who knows? But yeah, I think that Nirvana. I don't know how my life would have turned out had I not discovered Nirvana. Because when I think about, whenever I try to, even just this t-shirt that I happen to put on my body today, this is State of Alert. This is Henry Rollins' first punk band. They were on Discord Records. How did I first find out about Discord Records? Nirvana. Because I said, who's Black Flag? And I looked into Black Flag. And then I said, who's Henry Rollins? Who's Fugazi? And I discovered the rest of this stuff. So really, Nirvana was the catapult for that. I can go through so many t-shirts in my closet and be like, oh yeah, basically Nirvana got me started on this. And there's a good chance I would have discovered things by another means. I also was exposed to different types of music via Matt Pinfield's first show, 120 Minutes. So I discovered Green Day, and there's a good chance that maybe Green Day would have gotten me into punk rock, but it was Nirvana. That was my, kind of my catalyst. And I like Nirvana better than Green Day, so I kind of held them, they were on more of a pedestal for me when I was, still are, actually, to this day. Even more so as the years go by. But, and those records, I still, a buddy of mine, my buddy Jesse Case, a very funny comic, by the way, you should follow him on Twitter. He tweeted recently, he said something, every now and again I revisit Nevermind, and it's just such a masterpiece. And I do feel that way, and I feel that way about In Utero as well. And last week when they were talking about the 25th anniversary, I did pick up my guitar, and I strummed out a few Nirvana tunes, just the first ones that came to my mind. I think I strummed out Penny Royalty, did a little bit of About a Girl, and then I did some of the cover songs that they would do. Like I did Molly's Lips, which that's a really easy one to do because it is literally only 2 chords. And then I did Son of a Gun. Those were 2 Vaseline's covers, I believe, that Nirvana was famous for covering. And they did a phenomenal job with those covers. But I ran through a couple Nirvana songs. And, If Kurt Cobain could hear that, he would have been like, wow, all right, buddy, stick to comedy. You didn't see me try to do jokes up there, dude. You didn't see. I would let Bobcat Goldthwait do his thing, and then we would come out and do ours. Which, by the way, Bobcat Goldthwait opened for Nirvana on a couple tours, because that's another fun little connection there. Kurt Cobain was a big comedy fan, and I lived in Seattle for a couple years. There were a lot of stories that he used to go to the local comedy club until he could no longer go out in public, because everybody would recognize him. But up until that point, he would go to the comedy club a lot to check out just open mic nights or whatever else and hang out. And in the new Comedy Underground location, unless something's changed since the last time I've been there, which has been a few years at this point, there was a mural, and there was a painting of Kurt Cobain. Like there was kind of like a mural of people in the audience, and they were famous Seattleites. Jimi Hendrix was there as well, but there was a painting of Kurt Cobain, and he was sitting and he was laughing. And as somebody who started comedy in Seattle, and as somebody who is a diehard Nirvana fan, that was always a really cool thing for me to, be at my local comedy club that was my home club for a couple years and see a picture of Kurt Cobain there. So, yeah, I'm a big fan, and it's one of those things where you kind of have to take a step back and realize just how influential this person's body of work was to you. And it was not a huge thing. I mean, they were only around for so long. I mean, Nirvana started technically in 1987. Kurt Cobain was dead by 1994. And in that 7-year span, there were struggles with addiction. There were struggles with illness. There were struggles with the lineups. Tours were canceled. Kurt got married, had a kid. Chris, I think, was married the whole time, but Chris was married at some point, the bass player. And so all that happened in this span, too. So it's kind of crazy to think about how short that time actually was, and all of the things that happened in that short period of time. They were virtually unknown until 1991. And, Incesticide was mainly just a collection of B-sides. So really, they only had... I mean, it still counts as an album, of course, but as far as just like, these are the songs we're writing at this time period, they really only had, Bleach, Nevermind, In Utero. Because Unplugged in New York was also more of a collection. It was their Unplugged album that MTV used to do. So... it's a really humbling thing to wrap one's head around. Let me see what you guys are saying before we move on from this topic. And Edwin, thank you very much for suggesting this for Music Monday. It was a fantastic suggestion. I'm glad we did it. And Shauna, thanks for turning me on to Cop Shoot Cop. Let me see what you guys are saying before we move on. .org. Right? Huh? All right. Chris is still pretty awesome, says Shannon. Yeah, he's in that band... what are they called? Like Giants in the Trees or something like that. He's in a band up in Washington State, and they're actually really good. Yeah, they're a great band. Garden Gnome, I never got into Foo Fighters or Gruel's other projects. I like Foo Fighters some, that's about it. And I'm not a huge Foo Fighters fan. I do appreciate them. They're fantastic live, and I'm a big Pat Smear fan. So I do like the Foo Fighters for that, and I did see the Foo Fighters once, and it was mainly to see Pat Smear live. But that was really cool. Favorite Nirvana song, says Edwin. That is tough. Wow. Favorite Nirvana song. Oh, and one of you guys, before I try to answer that, because I don't have an answer, I'm going to try to think. Statutory points out that Love Buzz was the first Nirvana song that they played. Another thing, how Nirvana was really famous for covers. Love Buzz was a cover song. That was Nirvana's first single that Sub Pop put out, and it was a cover song. Nirvana did not write Love Buzz. Tim gives a shout out for All Apologies Unplugged. Absolutely. Both All Apologies, but yeah, wow. Indeed. My favorite Nirvana song, I'm going to have to go with On a Plane. That is just such, when I hear that song, that is just such a perfect pop song. And it's often a song that goes overlooked. I mean, even when they would play some of the Nevermind selections that weren't the hit songs, they would play Drain You, which is also one of my favorites. But some of the tracks on Nevermind that never quite got, Territorial Pissings got a lot of accolades, I think, because they played that on Saturday Night Live. But Lounge Act, Stay Away, those are all great songs, and they often go under the radar because they were just on such a powerhouse, heavy-hitting album. But I'm going to have to go with On a Plane. I just think On a Plane is just a perfect pop song. And that is sort of what Kurt Cobain was all about. The guy just knew how to write a perfect pop song. About a Girl is just a perfect pop song. And even their heavier stuff, it has that sort of pop element, and it's very beautiful. Floyd the Barber, Negative Creep. Sell the Kids for Food. That's In Bloom, which is also a fantastic song. Celeste is saying that's Celeste's favorite song. And Shannon points out On a Plane's a great one. They all are. I agree. They just had so many great songs. So many great songs. Nirvana was great, but there were a lot of other bands on the scene with similar sounds. Dinosaur Jr., Sonic Youth, Beavis Frond, and Mudhoney. I liked all those bands too. Beavis Frond I'm not familiar with, but Sonic Youth, I like Sonic Youth. I got to see them a while ago. Same with Dinosaur Jr. Mudhoney I've never seen, but I was at a party they threw once, which was kind of cool. Sliver gets a shout out. Very Ape gets a shout out. Radio Friendly Unit Shifter. That might be my favorite album on Incesticide, I think. That's a really, really cool track. And then Penny Royalty. Love Penny Royalty. All right. So Kurt Cobain, rest in power. Thank you guys for your thoughts. And we're gonna go on to some other news. So here's some things that connect. We got a lot to get through today. I don't know if we're gonna get to all of it, but we're gonna try. So Jeff Bezos has the details for his divorce. Jeff Bezos, Amazon CEO, and Mackenzie Bezos finalized divorce details. Jeff Bezos, Amazon's founder and chief executive, and his wife Mackenzie Bezos said on Twitter on Thursday. Wow, that tripped me up. Check that out. I just saw Tuesday. I don't know why. But they said on Twitter on Thursday they had finalized the details of their divorce. They sent the tweet together. They were like, let's tweet this out. We got this down. All right, so Mr. Bezos will keep 75% of the couple's Amazon stock and all of their ownership of the Washington Post and the Blue Origin Space Company, Miss Bezos wrote. Mr. Bezos will also have sole voting authority over Miss Bezos' Amazon share, according to a filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission. After the divorce, Miss Bezos will own roughly 4% of Amazon, a stake that was worth $36 billion on Thursday. By keeping 75% of the couple's Amazon shares, or about 12% of the company, Mr. Bezos will likely remain the richest person in the world. Heaven forbid he's not. His remaining stake in the company was worth almost $108 billion on Thursday. And just for the record, Bill Gates, the second wealthiest, is worth $102 billion. So, I'm no divorce attorney, nor can I speak heavily to the details of their particular situation. But based on the sounds of it in this article, it sounds like Jeff Bezos is a bigger psychopath than the person he divorced. Who might not be a psychopath at all. I mean, I don't know anything about her. But it sounds like, based on the way, it sounds like he's keeping pretty much everything, more or less. He's keeping all the voting rights. He's keeping a lot of the shares. He's keeping all the other entities he's invested in. Why? Because he's drunk on power. And I think it sounds like one of those things where she just looked at the offer and realized, I'll never have to worry about anything ever. My kids will never want or need anything. Their kids will never want or need anything. There are billions of dollars at stake here. Yeah, that's fine with me. You know what I mean? It seems like that's the case because her share is so tiny compared to his. based on the summary we just read. But it seems like she may be more of a rational human being than him and isn't obsessed with power and control, and just kind of said, hey, cool, I'll take it. Have fun with your newspaper. Have fun with your... Good luck becoming emperor. Good, because I'm sure at some point when they were in bed together late at night, he said, I could become emperor of this place. All I need to do is invest in water, and I have control of everything. Because I think to reach a level of Jeff Bezos, you have to have a certain amount. And not a certain amount, actually. That's an understatement. You have to have a high amount of just megalomaniacal tendencies. Like, you just have to. Why? When else would you say enough's enough? Why wouldn't you at some point just be like, I'm going to treat my employees right? Because I am still rich beyond comprehension at the end of the day. Hey, it's not right that I pay $0 in taxes. But it's all about power. That's why Bezos doesn't like Trump, by the way. I know there's some people out there that they consider themselves on the left, and they're like, well, Jeff Bezos, he opposes Trump. He's a good guy. No, he's a bad guy. They're both bad guys. And the only reason they oppose each other is because the world is just one big measuring contest to them. That's all it is to them, because at the end of the day, they're still rich. And you have to understand, a lot of times when it comes to people with privilege at their level, it's just a game. It's just an ego trip to them. They don't really care about anybody but themselves. And it's just an ego trip. You're a billionaire. You're a billionaire. I mean, billionaires shouldn't happen. We shouldn't have them in the world. But just looking at the settlement, it sounds like, okay, he's drunk on power. He wants to retain it. She said, okay, because I'm never going to want anything ever. And she probably looked him in the eye and said, I hope you just kind of take a moment and breathe and enjoy your life a little bit. But who knows? So anyway, another reason I bring this up to connect this with something else that's going on in the news. Here's something Amazon's doing that some people are protesting. Here's an article about it. Amazon must let shareholders have a say in the selling of controversial facial recognition tech. Oh, fun. Amazon can't block its shareholders from a vote on the company's controversial facial recognition technology. In a letter to the e-commerce behemoth this week, the Securities and Exchange Commission struck down an appeal from Amazon to block voting on proposals related to sales of recognition to government entities. The two proposals would speak to the concerns of shareholders, activists, and civil rights groups over the company's facial recognition tool. The first proposal would stop Amazon from selling its recognition technology to governments unless the board approved it. The second proposal would require an audit into the technology in order to research recognition's effects on privacy and civil rights. And they don't even want you to vote on this. Amazon doesn't even want to vote on this. Keep in mind. So Amazon has been subject to intense criticism over recognition, particularly concerning who the company has been selling the facial recognition service to. Here who's they've been selling it to. The Seattle-based tech giant has sold recognition to local police forces and the FBI. It even sought to sell its services to ICE. Now, the company continues to deploy recognition to governments despite a study by the ACLU, which found that the technology could not correctly identify members of Congress, and even worse, the study discovered that the facial recognition tech suffered from a racial bias. So they want to vote on this. Now, here's the other thing. It's unlikely that either proposal will receive the support it needs to pass. Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos alone owns a sizable share of the company. Probably another reason he didn't want to give that up, because he doesn't want to get the board's approval to sell facial recognition software to governmental agencies. He doesn't want to have their approval. He doesn't even want them to vote on having a say in the matter. But these proposals likely won't go through anyway because he has such a big say, because he retains so much of the company. No wonder he didn't want to give away much of his shares. Well, of course, the money as well, but there's a reason beyond money that and the reason is he wants to make more money. But You know what I mean by that. There's a reason. There was also a strategic reason and a power reason he didn't want to give away more shares, and he wanted to retain most of it. And she just said, look, okay. I mean, that's what I think you can be led to conclude. And I drink water from a mason jar. So he doesn't even want them to have a say in it, but chances are the proposal will go nowhere anyway. Hey, we want this proposal. You can't sell it to a government entity without approval. I don't want you to have a say in that. Well, we really want a say in it. All right, well, if you have a say, the proposal is probably not going to go through anyway. Amazon. And they already sold it to the FBI, police forces, and ICE, despite the fact it doesn't correctly identify people. We covered that on the show when it happened. They did a bunch of members of government as a test, and the facial recognition failed. And it also has a bias towards minorities. We covered that on this show. And Jeff Bezos and Amazon, they're still selling it anyway. And they don't want anyone to tell them that they can't. Or Jeff Bezos, rather, doesn't want anyone to tell him that he can't. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. So there's some Amazon news. All right. We have a little bit of other news, some good news, some 2020 news. Let's go here. So we've been covering the strike of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra musicians. And what's happening there is they went on strike because their compensation packages are not comparable to other world symphony orchestras. We talked about how this is problematic because this will affect people at all levels. The Chicago Symphony Orchestra, that's a world orchestra. So a lot of the players there, that's a finish line. You work hard to get to that point. And before you get to that point, you're probably going to be in smaller orchestras, some that might not meet every day even, and you're just getting paid per show, essentially. I don't know if shows per performance, however you want to put it, and you're struggling to get by. But you eventually pay your dues and you land a gig somewhere like the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, and you're compensated very well because you're one of the top players in the world and you've made it to this point, and you deserve that compensation. If you're screwing over people at the top, it's going to, quote, trickle down to everybody else. That's one, for instance, where trickle down is an applicable theory, when it's the trickling down of screwing people over. You know, so that means that the people who are just starting out and are playing in multiple orchestras to try to make a living, they might not be able to do that anymore because they're going to get screwed over too. So we talked about all that. Here's an update on what's going on. This is from the World Socialist website. Chicago Symphony musicians host packed concerts as strike reaches turning point. Almost a month into their longest strike ever, the Chicago Symphony Orchestra musicians continue to host successful free public concerts to full audiences as their struggle reaches a turning point. Performances at the Symphony Hall have been canceled through April 9th as negotiations resumed on Friday. That's this past Friday. The striking musicians at the world-class orchestra have received widespread support from around the world in their fight to defend their pensions, salaries, and other benefits. The resistance of the musicians comes amid a mass resurgence of strikes by workers globally to fight against poverty, wages, and concessions, including by teachers and auto workers. At stake is nothing less than the right to art and culture more broadly. Entering the fourth week of their strike, the CSO musician strike is now in the 26th day, the longest ever so far in more than 128 years. In 1982, the musicians went on strike for 21 days. All right. In the current contract negotiations, management has threatened drastic changes to the pensions of the CSO musicians, which would transform their defined benefit pension plan into a defined contribution plan. Such a change would force more contributions from musicians, putting their future at risk. All right, so it looks like they're still debating this. There's an enormous desire to fight back against social inequality by the working class. CSO musicians should appeal to teachers, auto workers, graduate students, and other sections of workers in the fight to defend art, culture, and the social rights of the working class. Such a struggle is above all a political struggle that will require the rational reorganization of society on the basis of a socialist program against the capitalist system, which increasingly imperils all of humanity with the dangers of war, fascism, and social counter-revolution. So this is still going on. It's the longest in the history of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, and I guess they're still negotiating it. But as of right now, as of the recording of this, concerts are canceled through tomorrow, which is April 9th. As of the recording of this, we're recording this on April 8th. So we'll see what happens here. But people are showing up. They're showing up to support. What the musicians have been doing is they've been throwing free concerts for the public because they want to give to the public. They want to say, hey, public, this isn't your fault. This is management's fault. These are the people who are making money, and they're making money off of you paying the ticket price and us performing, and we're not getting compensated fairly, so we don't want to punish you, the people. So we're going to perform for free as part of this strike, which I think is really freaking cool. And I hope they get what they deserve. They deserve to be compensated the same as other orchestras of the world. And right now they're not. And that needs to change. So, good for you, CSO musicians. All right. We got a couple more stories, and then I'm going to go to you guys. Motel 6. Motel 6 will pay $12 million to settle lawsuit after sharing guest info with ICE. So, we talked about this a while ago. This goes back a while, because this first surfaced a long time ago. I remember it. I think we talked about it on Aggressive Progressives, but this was going back over a year for sure. But Motel 6 was selling information to ICE. They were giving away guest information to ICE in case there were any undocumented immigrants staying in hotels. So, Motel 6 was doing that completely willingly. And it violated privacy rights that guests have in hotels. So, all right, let's look into this article. Let's look into the update. Motel 6 has agreed to pay $12 million to settle a lawsuit that accused several Washington state locations of sharing personal guest information with U.S. immigration officials. The budget motel operator illegally shared the personal information of about 80,000 customers for more than 2 years, resulting in a targeted ICE investigation with guests with Latino-sounding names, the Washington State Attorney General's office announced Thursday. The office said operators at 7 Washington locations had voluntarily shared their guest list with ICE agents, and they did not require a warrant. Each time Motel 6 released a guest list, it included the private information of every guest at the hotel without their knowledge or consent, violating their expectation of privacy. This is from attorney Bob Ferguson. The Motel 6 guest information disclosures led to significant harmful consequences, including the detention and deportation of many guests and the suffering of their families. Some guests were approached by ICE agents and detained at Motel 6 properties, while others were detained a few days after their hotel stay, according to the office. One man was taken into custody at a Seattle location where he was staying for one night to wrap Christmas presents for his 4 children. Motel 6, which has more than 1,400 U.S. locations, admitted that at least 6 had shared personal guest information with ICE. Investigators later discovered that a 7th location had shared guest lists with ICE. So here's what Motel 6 said. Here's Motel 6's statement to ABC News. The safety and security of our guests, which includes protecting guest information, is our top priority. Clearly it's not. And we are pleased to be able to reach a resolution in this matter. As part of this agreement, Motel 6 will continue to enforce its guest privacy policy. What do you mean continue? You fucked it up. What do you mean you're going to continue to? You screwed it up. You had a privacy policy. You violated it. You shared information with ICE illegally. No consent was given. No warrant was given on their end. They had no warrant. It was just given freely by you. You violated customers' right to privacy. And now you're paying a settlement. You're not pleased to pay that settlement. Please. We're pleased to pay this $12 million. Sure. As part of the agreement, Motel 6 will continue. Yeah, that's bullshit. Which prohibits the sharing of guest information except in cases where a judicially enforceable warrant or subpoena is present or local law requires this information. Oh, I like that. I like that or there. Or local law requires it. Hey, we're ICE. We want this information. Are you requiring it? Yes, we're requiring it. Okay, here you go. No warrant or subpoena necessary. So what a bullshit apology by Motel 6. They're basically saying, oh, unless local law, unless someone says it's required. And I know you might be thinking, oh, Ron, that's not what they mean by that. Yeah, yes, it is. Yes, it is. You don't think with schmarmy, mealy mouth stuff like that, they're not going to beat around. They're not going to go around ways to get what they want. The company said it implemented a system to ensure... Yeah, whatever. The takeaway from this is your information's not safe if you go to a Motel 6. Period. You should always know that. Your information is not safe if you go there. That should be public knowledge, and it should force Motel 6 out of business. I'll never stay at one again. I try to avoid them anyway because typically over the years, and this is, again, I used to travel 45 weeks a year. I've stayed in countless hotels. Motel 6 always has the shittiest Wi-Fi, if they have any Wi-Fi at all. So I try to avoid them because I would often need Wi-Fi on the road. So that's the big takeaway here. It's illegal what they did. This $12 million settlement is likely just a slap on the wrist. That's why they're not complaining about it. But the public needs to know your information is not safe when you stay at a Motel 6. You should know that law enforcement will have your information for no reason. So why stay somewhere where you have no confidence in your information being safe? And I just sneezed. I don't know if you caught that. I tried to mute the microphone. I don't know if I got it on time. But I did just sneeze there. All right. Yeah, Motel 6 will make you sneeze. No, I don't know. That's just whatever. All right. We got a couple more. And then we'll go to the chat. And then we'll dismount for the Monday. Here's some interesting news. Tim shares this. On the Navajo reservation, they're turning from coal to renewables. This is from Nice Polite Republicans, NPR. The Navajo and Hopi have fought hard to hold on to coal. 3 generations have worked for the West's largest coal-fired power plant, the Navajo Generating Station. The tribes have relied heavily on its revenue. So when the Phoenix-based Salt River Project announced it was shutting down the plant at the end of the year, the tribe scrambled to find a buyer or, as a last resort, purchase the plant themselves. It finally came down to a vote last month at the Navajo Nation Council special session meeting. The delegates deliberated for 8 hours. Are we ready? Delegate Nathaniel Brown said. Are we ready for the shutdown? I don't think we are. We stand to lose a lot. Our children, the future generation. Delegate Charlene Sow said she's done with the coal and its health impacts on her people. The plant is one of the country's biggest carbon emitters. Shame on you, Sow said. Money, money, money. It's replaceable. Enough is enough. This is the time that we're going to have to take a stand, that we're going to have to come together for our people. I'm ready to take that challenge. Other delegates pointed out that many energy companies were moving away from coal in favor of cleaner and cheaper energy sources. The council finally voted against the purchase. That decision marks an end of an era. Before coal, many tribal members worked with the federal government to blast uranium out of the Navajo Nation to make atomic weapons. The Navajo autonomy has been built upon resource extraction, said Brent Isaac, who grew up next to the Peabody Canada coal mine. Now Isaac and a group of entrepreneurs have formed Navajo Power, a renewable energy company that's trying to help the tribe shift away from coal. The tribe has built 2 utility-sized solar farms already, and it's working on a 3rd. That's awesome. It takes the benefit of something that's abundant and converts it into something usable, Isaac said. So that aligns a lot, not only with Navajo philosophy, but a lot of indigenous communities about how you responsibly source things. So there's just one problem. According to this article, the number of jobs at a solar farm can't compare to coal. The plant and mine supplied 800 of the best-paying jobs of the Navajo Nation and many more support jobs. Solar, on the other hand, requires hundreds of temporary employees to construct the farm, but after it's built, the sun does most of the work. That's a tough sell to a tribe where half of the people are unemployed. But Isaac envisions solar farms sprouting up faster than corn on the vast reservation, and has hopes that they could build a manufacturing facility to assemble the panels. It starts with embracing change, said Navajo President Jonathan Nez, who's on board with the idea. He just signed a proclamation to make renewable energy the tribe's top priority, but he's also realistic. He knows the tribe has to invest in other economic engines like tourism. People all over the world come to Navajo, Nez said. If we could keep some of our visitors here on the Navajo Nation a little longer, that's going to bring dollars and jobs. He said ultimately they have to think about cleaner jobs and a cleaner environment for their children and grandchildren. So good for them, and I'm sure that many more sustainable jobs will come. They can lead to panel production or something like that. So I think it's awesome they're looking into this. It's awesome they see the necessity of it and see how it's important, see how it's geared towards the future, and they're confident that the economic part of it will come with time, and I believe it will as well. So right on, Navajo. Well done. Cheers. All right, so that's some good news. That's some pretty cool news. We have some 2020 news and then some other cool news, and then we're going to dismount. So here we go. Some 2020 news. Warren places third in a 2020 Massachusetts poll. This was shared over on our Reddit subsection, and they said, gee, she can't even come in, she can't win her own state. That's a little bit concerning. So Senator Elizabeth Warren on Sunday placed third in a 2020 presidential poll of her home state of Massachusetts, trailing Bernie Sanders and former Vice President Joe Biden. Oh, creepy Uncle Joe. In a poll of likely Democratic primary voters in the state, 14% picked Warren as their preferred Democratic nominee for president. Sanders led the field with 26%, followed closely by Biden, who had support of 23%. You know what they won't put? They won't put Bernie wins a Massachusetts poll. Notice how they have, and I get it, it's her home state, so that's why it's about Elizabeth Warren, but notice how they didn't say Bernie wins. They could have said Warren comes in third in home state, Bernie wins. Can't mention that Bernie won. You got to kind of put it further down below that Bernie won that poll. And, you know, you always got to take polls with a grain of salt, especially when you read an article that's dissecting the poll, because you have to think, okay, what are they dissecting exactly? What's the original data telling us? Because they may have kind of skewed this to fit the agenda that they have. And who exactly did this poll take into consideration? So you take every poll with a grain of salt. And if you're reading an article about a poll, you take it with 2 grains of salt. But in this, for instance, Elizabeth Warren did not win her own home state. Bernie Sanders did. But heaven forbid they have a headline that Bernie Sanders won the poll. And I don't think Warren has a ton of excitement behind her. I think she's going to drop out quicker. Yeah, I don't think she's the establishment's anointed one. So I have a feeling her run will be short-lived, if I had to take a guess. Now, it's still very early in the season. Things could change. Momentum could shift. It is still early, but based on how everything's been going so far, I see her dropping out relatively quickly. So we'll see. All right. Now, here's a little bit more good news. This is going to be our last story today. Then I'm going to go to you guys. So we talk a lot about municipal broadband on this show and the idea of taking the internet out of the corporation's hands, out of big cable's hands, and putting it into the hands of cities and municipalities. I'm working on getting this done in Pasadena, where I live. It's been an uphill battle, to say the least, but we're working on it. The city has not returned my past few emails. I have to go to the planner's desk and present something with him. I'm trying to formulate a plan to make that happen. But anyway, here's some good news in that regard that pertains uniquely to California, but this will affect the rest of the country as well, because California is one of those states where a lot of times other states will follow California's lead. In some cases, not all the time, but in some cases, if Muni broadband spreads in a place like New York or California, it's going to spread nationwide. So here's the good news. Cities have broad authority over wireless facilities, California Supreme Court rules. In a landmark decision, the California Supreme Court gave cities a major victory, ruling that the way San Francisco regulates the appearance of wireless facilities is legal and isn't preempted by state law or California Public Utilities Commission's regulations. Its interpretation goes beyond lower court decisions and adopts a narrower view of state-level restrictions on municipal control of telecommunications infrastructure. Okay, so in short, bottom line, California cities can set aesthetic standards for cell sites and have more authority over wireless and wireline infrastructure than they or telecom companies thought. It's a comprehensive defeat for T-Mobile, Crown Castle, and Extenet, who sued the city and county of San Francisco. They'll even have to pay San Francisco legal costs. Although the ruling opens the door to further local regulation of wireless facilities, including stricter aesthetic standards, the extent of that discretion wasn't defined, and there are still federal preemptions of state and local authority that could apply. But today's decision gives California cities a green light to test those limits. So in short, the Supreme Court of California has ruled that California cities do have discretion over their wireless ventures. And this is a good thing because a lot of times there is red tape that the cable companies have put into place preventing California or any other state or any other municipality to do such a thing. But the Supreme Court of California just rules that cities have the ability to regulate these appearances, and they also have the ability to have a say in their wireless pursuits. That includes municipal broadband. So while there are still restrictions that apply in often cases, contracts made with telecom companies and so forth, this is a green light to further explore that. So this is good news for municipal broadband. This is good news for net neutrality. This is good news for the municipal broadband movement across the country, because if California starts spreading municipal broadband, it will do a lot to preserve net neutrality, because that's a huge customer base that the cable company can't exploit, and it's going to spread. It's going to spread around the country. So that's good news for municipal broadband here in California, which in turn will help the rest of the country too. This is a victory. Steve Blum, I need to have him on the show. He is based in California. He can explain the ins and outs of this court case better than I can. But the short summary, the Supreme Court ruled that we do have say in our wireless pursuits, in our cell pursuits. So this is a good thing for cities and municipalities. And bad news for big cable. Yes. Let's go to you guys. And then we're going to end the show today. Sorry, I just had to do a little refresher there. Watson, thank you very much for the super chat contribution. Kurt Cobain and Lane Staley died same day, different year. I did not know that. Ray Foley, thank you very much for the super chat contribution. Brian Lopez won Alderman in Pilsen, where you're performing. He's coming with Chicago MPP. Should be interesting. Cool. Thank you for sharing that. Enjoying your show while I'm walking in a park in NoHo, says Dan. That's awesome. That's very cool. And hey, you're walking in a park in NoHo. There's good news for municipal broadband all across California. Woot. Let's see. Jefferson gives a shout out for Assange and Manning. Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe Chelsea Manning is out of solitary confinement, which is good. But she's still being held for no freaking reason. There's no reason why she should be in jail. She should not be in jail right now. And we know that. Let's see. Bomber, we have municipal internet kiosks in New York City. That's interesting. Okay. I'll have to look into that. I'm not familiar with that. I will have to look into that. Let's see. Phil Brighton says, Biden is that guy last pick for a dodgeball game. According to these supposed polls, he's doing well. Again, I think in a lot of times you find out later that these polls only surveyed people on landlines. But, you know, who knows? Guys, we are out of time. Thank you so much for being part of this. Some tour dates before I get out of here. Guys, Texas, we're coming this week. Friday we'll be in Fort Worth. Saturday we'll be in Houston. Sunday we'll be in San Antonio. Monday we'll be in Austin. That's coming up this week, Friday through Monday, the 12th through the 15th. Texas, I'm coming at you. Graham Elwood and myself for the Progressive Comedy Tour. A fun night of stand-up, a fun night of activism. DSA is going to be there. Movement for a People's Party is going to be there. It's going to be a great time. Mike McRae is going to be doing a set on the Austin show. Mike McRae does all the voices on the Jimmy Dore show. He'll be doing a set on our Austin show. Grab your tickets now. RonPlacone.com for those tickets. April 19th, my first house show of the year in Boulder Creek, California. Drop me an email if you want to attend that show. May 1st, Indianapolis. Indianapolis, I can't wait to see ya. Going back to the Hoosier State, Indianapolis, May 1st. Tickets available, RonPlacone.com. May 11th through 13th, Graham Elwood and I are going to be in Salt Lake City and Boise. June, we're hitting the East Coast. Get your tickets, don't wait. Philadelphia for 2 nights. New Haven, Connecticut. Boston, Mass. New York City, Baltimore, Maryland, Washington, D.C. And July 27th, we're going to be in Vegas, baby. We're coming back to Las Vegas. Get all those tickets at ronplacone.com. If you want to support this show on the sustainability end, please do consider becoming a patron. Patreon.com/ronplacone. For a give what you can level, you get all kinds of exclusive content. You help keep this show on the air, and you help me expand this show. I want to do more guests. I want to do more streams. I want to do more topical streams. But I do need patrons to make that possible. If you have an extra $1 a month, please do consider it. If you don't, no problem. I get it. Please like and share these videos. It means more than you realize. It means everything. Thank you for being the best executive producers in the business. Look out for Lucy and Ron. Follow Lucy and Ron on Twitter, Lucy and Ron Comic on Instagram, because Lucy's comics are coming. I would have her say hi, but she's running around somewhere. I don't know. You guys are the best. Thanks for being the best executive producers in the business. I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same channel, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time, right here on YouTube, youtube.com/RonPlacone, or Twitter and Facebook if you're following there. Thanks for being awesome. Have an awesome Monday. Happy Music Monday. Peace.